Hello and welcome to another video that's trying to get you the top grades really quickly. So I'm going to recap the Foss way in this video. So when you're comparing poems, you need to write about the form of the poem, get a quotation from the opening. You need then some language techniques, which you've probably learned as soap aims, then the structure, and then the ending. And you'll get quotations from all of these as we go through the poem. So it's the Charge of the Light Brigade, as you know, and these are the first lines. So I'm going to tell you how to interpret these so that you can use them in your essay. First, you need to understand how they sound because they're written in dactyls, and I'll put that up here in a minute. Half a league, half a league, half a league onward, all in the valley of death. So I'm reading it with the emphasis on the first syllable out of 3 syllables. Half a league, half a league, half a league, onward. Now, that's the way that Tennyson wrote this poem. Now, that technique is called a dactyl, putting the stress on the first syllable. And the reason he's doing this is it gives it the rhythm of a song or a ballad. And that's important because it's written to celebrate the heroic sacrifice made by the Light Brigade. That's why he's chosen to do it as a song. Okay, I've made that point in my essay and I'm already banging away at some top grades because I've introduced form early on, and that is a grade 7 and above technique. Now we also have the use of repetition with half and half and half. That's got a name, it's called anaphora. And it simply means the repetition at the beginning of the line, here and here, so this one doesn't count as anaphora. And it's a technique he uses throughout the poem to create another sense of rhythm. Many critics look at this as recreating the hoof bits of the horses, so we'll run with that. The soldiers are on horseback, and this recreates the sound of their charge. Okay, now I'm smashing the mark scheme because I'm using this subject terminology, getting really high marks for that as well. Now, the Valley of Death is actually a literary allusion. It's a reference to the Bible and specifically Psalm 23. So this gives the poem now a Christian background, and it suggests that our Light Brigade are charging to murder people in a war, but actually it isn't murder because God is on our side. And this further suggests that the souls of the dead soldiers will be accepted into heaven by God. So this is a Christian perspective which Tennyson gives his readers to show that the war is just and that God is on our side. And so there I have just smashed the context part of AO3 again at grade 7 and above. So you can see already the examiner is desperate to give you a top grade just from writing about this one quotation. Now we can go a step further here and look at the structure of this. So the repetition of it being half a league and then still half a league and then still half a league emphasizes the danger that these soldiers are in. It slows down time. It is as though they'll never get to the Russian guns. And of course, remember, that's only halfway and they've got to come back. So this repetition here forces us to realize that their fate is likely to be death because they are exposed to the guns for so long. Okay, we've actually smashed the form and we smashed the opening, and we've even dealt a little bit with structure. However, I'm going to take you through structure later on as well, just to make double sure of the grade. So for anyone not familiar with our next step, soap aims, this is just a mnemonic to help us remember the normal techniques that poets use. So we have simile, onomatopoeia, alliteration, personification. This will be interesting adjectives, imagery, metaphors, and the senses. There are, of course, lots of others, for example, like anaphora, which I've just introduced to you, but this is just to help you to remember to analyse language techniques in your essay. Now, there are so many language techniques which we could pick on, but we only have time in the exam to write about 5 quotations, so I have to be disciplined. So in the second stanza, I'm going to pick this one, there's but to do and die. So first I'm going to emphasize the alliteration here, which emphasizes the idea that death is inevitable. But I'm also going to emphasize the word do and die. So we've got the consonants here of the D. So many people remember this as there's but to do or die, and they substitute the or as though there is an escape. But Tennyson includes the and here deliberately to show that there is no escape. Death is almost certain. In their minds, of course, many of them do survive, but they don't know that when they're setting off. Now this, of course, emphasizes the great heroism of the soldiers, and it contrasts with the fact that they knew someone had blundered. It tells us that even though they know they're dying as a result of a terrible order that should never have been given, they still do it for their country, for their duty. Now, on one level, Tennyson is celebrating that as a quintessentially British concept. It's the true mark of a hero who puts themselves at risk no matter what the consequences. Okay, my next quotation is going to question that view. Is he really celebrating the heroism? Yes, he is. But is he also attacking the society that expects this kind of sacrifice from its men? So this is quite a sophisticated grade 9 point. Bear with me here because I think you're going to understand it and then you're going to get the grade. So if we go back to the dactyls, do you remember they were stressing the first of the three syllables, all the, and then it would be an unstressed world, and then stressed wondered. But listen, all the world wondered. The stresses are different here. He disrupts the dactyls because he is disrupted by this thought. And the thought is, why on earth have these men been sacrificed? Now there's a further level of sophistication here with the use of the rhyme. This is another structure point for you, because the word wondered is there to rhyme with sundered and hundred, but also with, let's go back, hopefully you'll remember, with the word blundered. So what he's doing is emphasizing the blundered and emphasizing the number of men who are going to die, 600, and he's linking it to this word wondered. On the one hand, he's suggesting that their sacrifice is so glorious that when people hear it around the world, they celebrate what it is to be British. But at a deeper level, he's also leaving it as a question. The rest of the world is all wondering how we could do this, fight this foreign war against the Russians and sacrifice our men for nothing. Now you have to make the point that this is like a subliminal message, a message hidden beneath the words, because the obvious message is the opposite, that it's celebrating British bravery and it's not blaming the generals who have given the wrong order for what they've done. Right, well, now we come to the final stanza, and I want to talk about the ending and structure. Now remember, I've already talked about structure with the dactyls and the rhyme, but I can build on that structure point. So here at the ending, that line, all the world wondered, is repeated again. And this emphasizes that Tennyson does not want his readers to get away without actually questioning what's happened here. Although the poem is celebrating the honour of these men sacrificing their lives for us, the readers, he still wants us to wonder about it, partly in an awestruck way, to marvel, but also with an element of questioning and perhaps disapproval. You could even go so far as to argue that Tennyson himself is not aware of this. It's his own unconscious thoughts leaking out here. Or you can claim that it is a deliberate act and that he wants to undermine this patriotic fervour that he's put into his poem. So by looking at this ending, we have picked a structure point which also doubles as the ending point. So we could nail that grade 7 and above with just 4 quotations, but I promised 5. So the easiest thing to do is to concentrate again on this repetition at the beginning of the line, which I hope you remember is called anaphora. These are imperative verbs giving us an instruction, and so he's leaving his readers with this instruction to celebrate the charge that the men of the Light Brigade have made. Now I can link that to a contextual point, which is the newspapers at the time were starting to criticise the decision in the first place, starting to criticise the leadership. And as poet laureate, the poet appointed by the Queen, he feels a duty of patriotism, a duty to keep the establishment in place, and therefore he can't publicly accuse the generals of being wrong. Instead, he sidesteps the criticism of the generals and says, let's forget about that. Let's just celebrate the incredible bravery and glory of the men. So we could argue, and we want to because alternative interpretations always get higher marks, that in the ending, this is his true belief, where he's starting to question this order and question the British involvement in the Crimean War, but this is a secret questioning. His public face, the public persona, the laureate, has to celebrate the war and celebrate British bravery. So I hope I've shown you how versatile the Fosse Way is. You no longer have to annotate every single line of your poem. Instead, you're picking on 5 quotations which will help you analyse the form, analyse the structure, give the poet's point of view to have alternative interpretations, and absolutely nail grades 7, 8 and 9. I hope you've gained from that and that you will subscribe or give me a comment below to tell me what you'd like next to get you the very top grades. See you soon on my channel.